Short-term rental condo sales are flying off the shelves, right? Everyone is making a killing in this market. Are you someone who is thinking about getting on this bandwagon in BC? Well, then think again. You might be really sorry if you jump into this without knowing all the current changes in the province of BC. Stick around to the end for my assessment of who the winners and who the losers are in this mess. For full disclosure, my wife and I own a legal licensed short-term vacation rental condo in the heart of downtown Victoria, BC since 2017. You know, we have hosted hundreds of guests locally from around the world and have over 350 five-star reviews. Also, I am a realtor actively working in the Victoria market. Now let's talk about what is happening in BC and specifically in Victoria now with short-term rentals. In October 2023, the provincial NDP government passed new legislation on short-term rental operations in the province. This is known as the Short-Term Rental Accommodation Act. And here are the highlights of the act. Number 1. As of May 1st, 2024, short-term rentals will be limited to the host's principal residence. Resident rentals used solely as short-term rentals will be banned. There are exemptions for areas with less than 10,000 people. There are also some ski areas and recreational areas that are exempt from the primary residence requirement, such as Whistler and Blackcomb ski hills and various others. This means, if the municipalities allow it, that they can rent out self-contained units such as condos for short-term rentals and do not have to have the principal residence restriction. Number 2, the grandfathering or legal non-conforming status for short-term rentals use of condos will be removed province-wide. There are about 1,600 condos with legal non-conforming status in Victoria, of which about 634 units as of December 2023 were legally licensed and were being used for short-term rentals. This came about when the City of Victoria modified the transient zoning in 2017 to remove the legal short-term rental use, converting these units to legal non-conforming status to allow them to continue as short-term rentals. Historically, when cities make a change in zoning, rather than compensating the affected property owners, they instead grandfather the use. This grandfathering remains until all properties in a building are no longer used for the original purpose for at least 6 months, at which time the grandfathering might expire. This allows the city to get on with managing the new area's zonings, but protects the owners from the devaluing of their property when a zoning change is implemented. The BC government, however, has singled out short-term rentals as the only legal non-conforming property type no longer in the new legislation, and on May 1st, 2024 will remove the protection of grandfathering from the law. The province is not offering any compensation when removing the legal non-conforming status. This has caused a sudden large impact on the property values of the short-term rental owners and also on the residential owners in the same buildings. They are no longer going to be protected. Remember, these condos are legally operating units with business licenses. This has many side effects, which I will talk about later in this video. Many feel that their properties are being expropriated without compensation by the provincial government. A property rights association in BC for the legal non-conforming short-term rental contest has formed since October 2023. They are working towards protecting the property rights of these condo owners while dealing with the new legislation. For more information, see their website at this address below. Number 3. The new definition of short-term rentals is now all units rented for less than 90 consecutive days. In the past, the definition was for less than 30 days. This has caused a firestorm of issues. This disallows large groups of people from renting units for less than 90 days. Some examples are cancer patients under treatment, which is usually about 6 weeks, in major cancer centers like Vancouver and Victoria. It can be doctors and locums, traveling nurses for COVID-19 or other support workers, trade workers on projects doing construction or installing windows, people moving into town who have purchased a house or are looking for one, film workers on a shoot, and more. In most cases, the only practical option these people have now is to stay in expensive hotels without kitchens or without laundries or without the comforts of home they really desire. Number 4, the fine penalties for not conforming to the new legislation is fines up to $50,000 and up to $3,000 per day if operating a short-term rental where it is not allowed. This is much more punitive than on serious crimes. You can find the details on the Province of BC website at this address below. So why is all this happening? How are the owners of the public being affected? Who will benefit from these changes and who will lose? So keep watching. There are many theories on why this was done, and here is my assessment, which could be wrong, so follow with a critical mind. The federal, provincial, and even the municipal politicians are feeling the pinch of the housing crisis. Some feel the looming elections and know that they need to appear to be taking some action. They start thinking about how they can boost the idea that something is happening. It appears all three levels of government have decided that forcing short-term rentals out of business to become either long-term rentals or go up for sale as affordable housing would be the quickest way to demonstrate their ability to get the housing problem solved. They are picking the low-hanging fruit. However, what they appear to have forgotten are the consequences of the legislation on the owners of the short-term rental units, the local economies, the workers dependent on the tourism from the short-term rentals, and even the renters looking for the affordable rentals. Let's look at the provincial government's explanation. The government policy people who drove this legislation, for whatever reason, decided that short-term or rental accommodations in BC were taking away affordable housing for BC residents and were also driving up the rental cost. To support this, they used a report written by David Washmuth from the McGill University, and you can see the report at this link below. This report was funded by the BC Hotel Association, who feel that they are being affected by the impact of short-term rentals on their businesses. They have a vested interest in seeing the short-term rental market destroyed in BC, allowing them to gain more market share, even a monopoly in daily rentals. It follows that due to reduced competition, the hotels and motels will be able to increase their room rates, this resulting for the large and international hotel chains in a higher revenue and increased profitability. Many feel this report has missed the boat as it is faulty in many areas and does not represent at all what is happening and the effects of short-term rental in the province of BC. Another recent report by the Conference Board of Canada disputes the McGill report, and you can see that link below. Director Tony Bonin stated, contrary to the common narratives around Airbnb listings, of the 30% increase in rents observed at our sample of neighborhoods, at most less than 1 percentage point can be attributed to increased Airbnb activity. The Conference Board of Canada found that despite having a significant effect on the number of active high-use Airbnbs, regulations restricting short-term rentals to a host's principal residence haven't led to lower rents in the areas they were implemented. Also, the research found that the areas that implemented principal residence restrictions tended to have higher rents, suggesting these cities may have been motivated to introduce restrictions to address broader affordability concerns. There seems to be no correlation between the short-term rentals and the rental amount increases, disputing this common narrative. So here we have conflicting reports, and who do we believe? As far as can be determined, the provincial government made their legislative decisions based simply on one report, which is arguably inaccurate. A report funded by the BC Hotels Association. There appears to be no consultation by the province with the short-term rental owners or other stakeholders other than the hotel associations. There also appears to be little consideration for the consequence of this new legislation. I applaud the provincial government's intentions to increase affordable housing in BC. I work every day as a realtor getting people into homes they can afford. Does this legislation lead to this? Let's look now at the different players in this drama and see who benefits and who does not. I can't say this is the same in all parts of BC, so I will talk about what I know about in Victoria, BC, where I live. I also want to say my comments are specifically about the legal non-conforming owners and not all those other people illegally operating short-term rentals. However, rather than closing the illegal rentals, they also should be helped to be made compliant with the Act as required. These are most of the stakeholders in the housing needs. Number one are short-term rental owners. Number two is short-term rental support staff and suppliers. Number three is new residential purchasers. Number four is BC residents needing affordable housing. Number five is municipal residents. Number six are BC and out-of-province tourists. And number seven are hotels and motels and similar accommodations. And finally, number eight is the BC provincial government. First, owners of legal non-conforming properties will lose their grandfathering rights to operate as legally licensed short-term rentals without compensation. Secondly, owners' options are A. Sell their units for residential use. This will require the owners to report a federal tax change of use from commercial operation to residential, which triggers a 5% payable immediately on the assessed value of the property in GST. In Victoria, this could be $30,000 or more on each unit changing its use from short-term rental to residential use. Additionally, for properties which were purchased at a premium price due to the legal non-conforming status allowing the short-term rentals, the properties have had their values drop significantly, estimated at $75,000 to $100,000 and more. This is currently being demonstrated in the Victoria real estate market, where suddenly the market is flooded with legal non-conforming condos listed, and listing prices have been dropping daily with very few sales. Buyers are waiting to see where these property prices might bottom out before purchasing. Also, with hundreds of units for sale all at once, the competition is also driving the list prices down further, removing great value to the owners. B is the owners can keep their units for their personal use. However, this again triggers the 5% GST tax payable due to the change of use from commercial, resulting in the owners having to pay the huge tax anyway. Many owners have no means to do this, so instead will have to sell at great losses and could be subject to GST penalties and interest for not filing right away. The C option is to rent their units as long-term rentals for 90 days or more. This again triggers the GST tax payable. Additionally, it's quite possible that there is no one in the affordable rental category who can afford the rental amounts required to service the rental mortgage, interest, and operational costs. For example, the Property Rights Association of BC has calculated, based on provincial government criteria, that the affordable rental amount for a one-bedroom condo in the heart of downtown Victoria is about $1,800 per month for an average Victoria family with an annual income of around $67,500. The association's research calculated the average legal non-conforming single-bedroom condo break-even costs at around $3,800 per month. This means that in order to do long-term rentals, the owners would have to indefinitely subsidize the rental by about $1,900 per month. Furthermore, many owners do not want to rent long-term due to the extreme long delays with the BC Residential Tenancy Branch when tenant-landlord disputes occur. There are cases where tenants refuse to pay rent and squat in a rental during the dispute, and the landlord is out of pocket for the rent, and often renters damage, sometimes in tens of thousands of dollars. The BC Residential Branch does not force the renter to continue paying the rent while waiting for the dispute to be settled by the Tenancy Branch, and the owner has no options later to collect the rent afterwards for the unpaid rents. So many owners have indicated they will not be renting these units long term due to these difficulties. I suspect most will sell at a huge loss to high-income buyers for residential use who benefit on the lower prices due to the situation. There is already a large number of higher-priced condos in Victoria that these buyers can purchase. The affordable living buyers will not be able to buy into this group of legal non-conforming condos in most cases. So this does not actually help those in need of affordable housing. So now let's look at the winner and loser analysis. Who are the winners and who are the losers when the legal non-conforming condos are sold off or removed from the rental pool? Some may go to long-term, and currently as of December 2023 there are 634 legal non-conforming condos in the Victoria operating with City of Victoria legal business license as short-term rentals. The other 966 units are already being used for residential purposes, so will not add anything to the pool of available housing. Okay, the first is short-term rental owners. Win or lose? A definite loss. Not only could they lose up to $100,000 or more to low values, but they will have a huge federal GST tax burden. Additionally, as most of these owners, which is about 80%, they only own one unit, purchased for retirement income, and this group may be later forced to seek help from the provincial and federal governments to meet their living costs as their short-term rental pensions have been ripped away by this legislation. The second is new residential purchasers, win or lose. This may be a win for some high-income residential purchasers. Lower-income buyers will not be able to finance any of these units due to higher prices, even at these huge discounts at their incomes. So this is definitely not a win for them. The third group is BC residents needing affordable housing, win or lose. The legislation allows short-term rentals in principal residence where city zoning permits it, and that's not a lot in Victoria. This means that although the provincial government may allow a house to have a short-term rental, this may nevertheless not be allowed by the city. It is hard to know how many principal units will eventually be allowed. What may happen is that many of these suites and principal residents will transition to short-term rentals. Everyone in Canada has the right to better their position in life, and people, if they think they can make more income than with long-term rentals, will transition to higher revenue short-term models. Unfortunately, these suites and homes are the most affordable units in any city, and many will be lost. So in fact, the legislation does not protect these affordable housing units. For affordable housing renters, this is not a win, as they can't afford to rent the higher-priced legal non-conforming condos due to the high rent requirements, and a lot of the affordable units may be removed from the long-term rentals. The next group is short-term rental support staff and suppliers, win or lose. The short-term rental operations require a lot of support staff and suppliers. There are many cleaning companies, laundries, suppliers of consumables, maintenance and repair people, and stores selling major appliances and supplies. By removing the short-term rentals, this has taken the legs out of many companies that may now have to close and lay their staff off. It is unknown if the large number of layoffs can be absorbed by other employers, but many people will lose their jobs and have to rely on help from the government. For this group, this is definitely a loss in almost every case. Now, due to the length of this blog, I have split it into two parts, and this ends part one. You do not want to miss the win or loss analysis on the remaining stakeholders. To watch part two, click on the video link below. I will see you next time in part two.